Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hello and welcome. It's Lisa Jones with the Exploring Death podcast, and today I am thrilled to have with me Spar Street. Spar is an internationally successful painter and sculptor who wakes up every day with the intention of making love, joy, and passion a more palpable and embodied part of people's everyday lives. Having had numerous brushes with death and a lifetime of exploring what it really means to be fully alive, he has dedicated his life amplifying the awareness of the things that make life truly rich, meaningful, and fulfilling. His work is celebrated in many of the most prestigious art galleries, fairs, and collections in the world. Welcome, Spar.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. We ran into each other a few weeks ago at the Maui Kombucha Bar, and we were talking about what we're both up to. And I was talking about my Exploring Death podcast, and you're like, wow, I've had some experiences with that. So I would love for you to share with our listeners the experience you told me about skiing and how you have no idea how you weren't killed in that situation.
Well, yeah, it'd be my pleasure. I was one of the top skiers in the world when I was younger, and so I was very comfortable skiing in places that a lot of people would fear to go, and which made it so I could ski fresh powder throughout the day. Whereas if you don't have the courage or the skill, it's just not possible to ski the steeper, more dangerous spots. And I was skiing this one line all morning, which was right above a 150-foot cliff and about a 45, 50-degree slope, so very, very steep. And like I said, not a lot of people willing to ski there because
it's terrifying.
Well, I was never terrified of that because I was confident enough in my skiing ability. But this one particular day and the last run I was doing down there, the slope was so steep that my uphill ski caught something and knocked out my downhill ski, which the downhill ski is the one that you used for support. And without that, it's pretty hard to do anything on a steep pitch other than slide directly in the direction of downhill, which had a cliff about 20 feet from where I. So the last thing in my mind that I remember was looking at where I was heading and thinking, the only way that I'm able to do this is if I jump it. And so like I stood up and I jumped as hard as I could. And then my mind went blank. I have no idea what happened. I can see myself going off this thing, and it's a very long ways down, and nice steep landing, but for those of you who don't know, steep is good when it comes to landings because flat landings have much greater impact than steep landings. So it's a nice steep landing, but I have no recall of what happened from the moment I took off to the moment I was down there, and I knew I had to clear a bunch of rocks in order to get there. And based on what a friend of mine who said he saw me, I'm guessing what happened was I actually probably bounced off one of the rocks somewhere. Probably, because I remember the takeoff, I probably landed, like bounced off with my feet. But he said he saw me flying upside down, which meant that at some point I went from flying straight to flying in an awkward position. And the next thing I knew, I was probably 200 or 300 yards from where I took off, because it's a very deep crevasse, and or couloir is what they call it, kind of a deep valley, and I kind of jumped off the cliff that was here, but it went way down deep. And when I became conscious, I was sliding down, and I had one ski on and one ski off, and I was shaking. And I remember looking at my ski jacket and my shirt, which was the only thing I had on my upper body. And there was a slice through both the shirt and the ski jacket, but I didn't have a single scratch on me. And
wow.
So I decided to go into the lodge, and then skied a few more runs and went home for the day.
So, I mean, did it shake you? It sounds like it was, potentially a life-changing moment in your life. Did it affect you?
It was fascinating in that, there was a lot of gratitude, and a feeling of tremendous vulnerability, and the poignancy of the preciousness of life.
Wow.
There was also, I remember later that night, I couldn't explain it, but I felt a layer of anger and rage arise, and I have no idea what that came from, but I'm imagining that there was a part of me that wanted to die, because life can be somewhere between intense and really effing intense at times, and so I'm imagining that the anger and rage was just a reaction to I'm still here, and this happened 30 years ago, and I'm grateful I'm still here. I mean, I have so many amazing life experiences that have occurred, and a wife and a daughter and all kinds of things that just wouldn't have happened had I used that as my moment of exit.
Right. Wow. It's an intense story and palpable. I mean, I could just imagine and kind of envision it happening. I wanted to ask you, because you said, you had the confidence. I mean, you were one of the top skiers. What were you in the?
I was in the top 16 in the world, and I was BC freestyle champion for 5 years. So
wow. So how did you get that confidence? Where do you think that came from? Because I think so many people, they want to be confident, but somehow they just never get that. What do you think it was for you?
It's the same thing as everybody who has confidence. I put in my 10,000 hours, or whatever that is,
Right.
Most people wanted to watch TV or whatever it was that they did after school when they were a kid. I wasn't doing that. I was skiing.
And was that a passion that drove you, or was it your parents, or what do you think? What do you think
it was
that kept you on track?
My parents didn't need to push me to do it. I loved it.
Right.
So they supported me, and I'm very grateful for that. It was just, I think part of it was I loved the feeling of freedom that I experience when I'm skiing. It's about as close to flying as you can get without having wings. And I didn't have confidence in other areas. I couldn't read till 5th grade. I had a lot of trouble in school. I had emotional challenges and social challenges, because I didn't have confidence in other areas. There was a lot of hormones running as a teenager, and there was a lot of attraction to girls, but not a lot of confidence in going and exploring that. It's funny because I look back at pictures of me in high school, and I really, according to the 56-year-old man that I am now, I thought I was quite handsome. But when I looked at myself from my 16-year-old, my nose was too big. I was long, I was lanky. The self-attack was a far more predominant aspect of the way I looked at myself than, oh my God, you're gorgeous. You're so handsome.
Right.
And yeah, so instead of looking at myself with what do you call it? With judgment, I would go skiing, right? And then I didn't have to think. The mind would stop as soon as I would be on skis, and I was free.
Wonderful. Wow, that's beautiful. And I know too, we talked about your father's passing, because that was, he was quite young, and that also affected your life. So would you be willing to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, my father died May 6th, 1985. I'd gone skiing with him the weekend before. He was an Olympic slalom skier. So skiing was a huge part of his life, which was such a blessing to me. He was a ski area developer. He developed Park City, Utah, and Crystal Mountain in Washington State, and cut all the runs in Grouse Mountain up in Vancouver, and did work in Whistler and Banff, Alberta. So yeah, skiing was a huge part of his life. And I went skiing with him the weekend before he passed. He passed at 49 years old. He was, relatively healthy as far as we knew. And one day he sat down. He had a 1-year-old son from a wife that he'd recently gotten together with. And he sat down in the back with his son and passed away. And had they had a defibrillator in the back of the car, probably would have been able to bring him back. But that didn't exist. So.
Wow. Which brings us to the next story, which is your brother, who recently had a heart attack, and there was a defibrillator available. So
he's become an international, at least a U.S. and Canada international celebrity, because, and he laughs about it and jokes about it, because all he did was die.
Yeah, people spend their whole lives trying to get famous, and all he had to do was die, right? And
he didn't even mean to. He was like, he was ice skating with a bunch of friends in a pickup hockey league in North Carolina. And he had the same thing happen to him that happened to our father. He's 54 years old. He actually arrives on Maui tonight. And I'm so excited to go pick him up because I can, which is really cool, because in January he died. And I am so grateful that I get to have, even one more day, or, one more hour with somebody precious like my father. I'm so grateful that I got to go skiing with him the weekend before he passed. And I don't know how to encourage you and whoever's listening to just imagine for a second, not to scare yourself or anything, just imagine what you would say to the people that matter most to you if you only had today, or just had an hour, or if you just had 15 minutes, and why put it off? Like, just don't put it off. Say it now. And if tomorrow comes and you said it yesterday, say it again.
I love that. I've been recently spending a lot of time with hospice patients, sitting by their bedside as they're imminently about to pass. And as I sit and just listen to their breathing getting longer and longer apart, and, you know, just everything slowing down, I imagine myself, what if I was the one laying there and I was taking my last breaths, and what do I need to do? Who do I need to reach out to? What do I need to make right in my life so I don't have any regrets at the end? And I think it's, like you said, not to scare people, but it's a really powerful exercise to go through, and to challenge yourself to not look away, to not numb yourself out. And, you know, as you mentioned earlier, people go and just watch TV or just go and do whatever, rather than be present in this life. It is precious, and it is beautiful, and you know, it's all about love and connection. And so think about where you are on your deathbed, and what do you want to do differently?
But it's only about love and connection if we turn our attention there, which is, it takes balls the size of church bells, or if you're a woman, I don't know what the female equivalent of that is, but, you know, it takes so much courage to feel love, to feel how much we care for people. My wife and I have been together for 18 years, and whenever we have a fight, sooner or later we get to the realization that we were just scared about how much we cared for each other, you know, and that the fight had nothing to do with anything other than, holy crap, you know, I am so in love with you, and I was scared shitless of admitting it, you know. And life is as delicious as our willingness to be intimate with it, but being intimate with life is intense. You know, that there's intense love, there's intense pain. You know, when we lose somebody, a massive transition occurs. When my father died, it felt like a freight train was running through its heart, through my heart. And it was a long one. It didn't, you know, it wasn't like 3 cars long. It's like 200 days and days and days worth of that level of big energy moving through me. And, you know, the grief went on for years and years and years. And every time I would heal one layer of the grief, I would feel another level of closeness to him. And so here we are approaching May 6, 2019, and I feel closer to my dad than I've ever felt, because I've been willing to feel the grief, and I've been willing to feel the loss. And at the bottom of those feelings of loss is a profound sense of connection. And I don't know anybody who's got to that profound sense of connection without having the courage and the bravery and the daring to feel all of the feelings of grief and loss, and with the anger and the rage and the remorse and the guilt and the shame. All of these things are so inherent in everyday living, but definitely inherent in losing somebody to death.
Absolutely.
And if we're brave, we feel it. We find out on the other side of that, we never lost them. They never went away. They can't.
I want to hear more about that. So tell me, Spar, how would you recommend anyone listening that has grief about the loss of a loved one? I mean, how did you for yourself figure out how to go into the depth and to really feel that? I think so many people want to avoid it. Again, I think that's our society, right? We turn to alcohol, we turn to TV, to, you know, whatever, to numb ourselves out. So do you have any ideas? Yeah.
Busyness is probably the most predominant thing people do when somebody dies. Is like, oh, you know, what needs to be done? You know, can I make can I can I just go through this list of, and because tons of stuff needs to be done. But if you want to be brave instead of, you know, chicken out and get busy, or chicken out and get drunk, or chicken out and get, you know, numb, all of these are ways of numb. Either find somebody who you know loves you and look in their eyes and let them see you just the way you are, and without the need to change it at all. Just be brave enough to let them see you, let them hear the sounds that need to be vocalized, you know, hear the stories that need to be told. To the best of your ability, say the things that you're most grateful for, say the things that you regret not saying. If you can't find a friend that has the emotional and I hate to use the word spiritual, but the, you know, a deep enough connection to their source, their center, it works to just sit in front of a mirror. And I would recommend people do both. Look in the eyes, see yourself, feel all of that, and be intimate with your own eyes, with the, you know, with the tremendous loss that's occurring. Don't look away. Take an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours. Look until you can see that you love yourself and that they love you even in the midst of this.
Right. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that idea, as you mentioned too, that they're still here. That's the amazing part, is that they are.
But we can't feel it until we've plumbed the depth of the well of grief. You know,
right. Right.
To get that on a mental level it's freaking useless. So, but to just go through the process, and at the bottom it's like, oh, you know, there you are. I thought
Right.
I'd lost it.
Oh, that's stunning. Well, and then I want to transition to, I mean, your art is stunning. It's so beautiful. There's a beautiful piece of artwork behind you that you've done. And if anybody's listening, you definitely need to go to my website, millionairemedium.com, and check out the video, or I guess it's on YouTube. But anyway, the video shows the this beautiful artwork. But how it sounds as though you've been able to channel your passion into your art. I mean, you've got art pieces all over the world with lots of celebrities and lots of, you know, museums and places all over, and so many people, so many artists want that. I mean, that's their dream, that's their desire. But how do you think, you know, what was it in you that allowed you to attain this kind of amazing, just, I don't know, just that you're everywhere, you're out there?
Well, I used to tell people that my only marketing plan was, because I didn't have a website or even business cards years ago, that what I just loved I loved my art, and I really do love my art, and I loved people. And I think that over the last few years, I'm really understanding that there's a third, probably more important component that I'm just beginning to fathom the depth of, and that is the element of self-love. And I wouldn't even know what that meant if it wasn't for the love of other people. There's some people that say, oh, you have to love yourself before other people can love you. I think that's pure excrement. Because I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know what it looked like. You know, if it wasn't for the amazing people who have loved me and just shown me what love looked like when it's lived, burned through my defenses with their presence. People, well-known people who've been personal friends like Eckhart Tolle and Wayne Dyer and Jack Canfield and Ajay Shanti. These people, by God's grace, have become my friends, and they've shown me what it looks like to have so much love that it's emanating from them, and they poured it into me without hesitation and without without anything holding back. And so I wouldn't know what it was like to have that. And the exercise of looking in the mirror. There's been so many times when feelings of self-hate or shame or guilt have made it so that there's a part of me that wanted to die instead of feel like I'd hurt other people or like I'd let them down or like I'd made mistakes that just couldn't possibly be forgiven or loved. And these people have loved me in those places. And then I go to the mirror and I can look in the mirror and go, oh my God, there's all this, but there's also this part that's looking at the self-hate or the self-loathing, and it's going, oh, sweetheart, you don't need to do this. I love you.
Oh, yes. Self-love has become the theme, I feel like, in the last, 6 weeks or something, that everywhere I turn, it's the same type of thing. It's, you got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. And I've been struggling with how do you, I love, I love my body. I love what I'm doing. I love where I live, but it's like, no, there's this piece that's, your soul, your true being, your essence, right? And that's the part. And I'm just now getting a glimmer, getting a taste of loving that. And again, it's about not being busy. It's about not doing things and trying to, even interacting and with others, it's about going within. And I love the mirror work. Louise Hay started the mirror work years ago, but thank you for reminding me, because it's so powerful, looking into the mirror and really gazing into your own being.
Yeah. Well, it's that, to me, people would tell me, oh, you have to have self-love. And I go, whatever. Like, I get it, but I didn't. I had no clue, without taking the time.
Right.
Daily to look in the mirror and say, I love you. And, watch what happens. Is there shame? Is there a part that holds back? I have these parts. That's freaking weird. You're saying you love yourself to image of yourself in the mirror, right? Or what if somebody sees or hears that I'm saying I love me to me in the mirror? Can I be brave enough to just be present with all of that noise and all of that, conditioning that has occurred from a lifetime of being in a world where self-love could be akin to masturbation, and masturbation is akin to shame. It's not something that we've allowed to be an integrated aspect of our everyday lives without it being burdened with the massive weight of shame. At least that was my experience. And
I agree. Well, I think our society, we just don't either talk about it or, certainly, schools are the last place that you're going to talk about self-love. That's indoctrination of, non-self-love about, what you have to do and who do you need to become. And it's all about achievement, and for so many people, as you mentioned, you couldn't read until you were, would you say fifth grade? I mean, how horrible as a child did you must have feel about yourself when, it's such a milestone and everything is centered around, your intellect. And I feel like
and the massive pressure, shall we call it, to fit in.
Right.
Because if we fit in, then we think the sense of self is lovable, and if we don't fit in, then it's not. But what we learn later, if by God's grace we discover how painful it is to try to fit in, we go, oh my God, I don't believe who I am has enough value that whether I fit into this group or not, I am with myself with caring. I am with myself with respect. I'm living to the best of my ability, up to my own ideals of what it means to be a dignified, responsible, caring father, loving husband, passionate human being who still has his mess. I mean, I don't want anybody to think that Spar Street's this guy that's got it all together, because I don't,
Right.
I'm still working through my wife doesn't like me to talk about numbers about stuff, but I'm going to take a risk. I've sold paintings for as much as $300,000, and I've sold sculpture for as much as $1 million. I've sold millions and millions of dollars worth of art in the last 35 years of my own art. And I've made investments in things that really didn't work out. And so at this moment, I've got about $200 in the bank. I've got $250,000 in debt minimum. I've got another $1.2 million in a business partnership. It's not personal debt. To keep showing up to that with self-love. And not to make it sound too scary, I mean, I do have month end handled and it's coming in, so it's not like I'm not destitute. I have plenty of food in the fridge and I have credit. Life is what it is. And I think that we are given challenges, like I know you lost your husband, holy frick, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say.
Thank you. Yeah, no swearing.
But I mean, wow, what a tremendous thing to have to face, and for some reason, I believe my soul in its wisdom had me invest in the things that I invested in that have created an opportunity to find love for myself here, where, it's just unacceptable to one aspect of my mind to be this much of a mess. And the other aspect now, thank God for this shitty experience, can go, wow, I'm here and I love myself. And there are people that are upset, and I have creditors calling, and I'm going to keep showing up. And I trust that heaven has a luminous future for me. And there is nothing more important than the connection you and I are having right here, right now. And that's where life is rich beyond anything money can offer. And in this kind of intimacy that we're feeling right now, You know, your husband's presence is with us, and my father's presence is with us, and the intimacy with my brother. And I would venture to say, because we're holding this poignant space right here, right now, that anybody who's watching can feel their connection to their own heart and their own soul and the people that matter to them. And that's the juiciness of life.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's a mess, and it's beautiful, and it's painful, and it's rich.
And it's those depths that you go to, the darkness, the unexplainable, that shame, and that palpable, just, inner hatred that then allows you to rise like the phoenix, right? I mean, if it wasn't for those deep, dark, horrible places, then you would never be able to rise and feel the glory of the love that is there, and to know that that's what is the only thing that matters, is the love at the end of the day.
No, I love that you can go there, and I love to go. Do I know that that's true for sure? I don't. But what I do know for sure is that when I walk down the street and I meet somebody who has gone through a serious financial loss, or debt problems, or a loss of a loved one, my heart leaps towards them. It's like, sweetheart, I got you, right? And they see that I've got them, and
Right.
and when they see that, they can go on and they can be there when their healing is done, or even when it's not. They can be there with their healing with another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what lifts the world to. This piece here is called Hearts Around the World. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's like little blasts, and to me, that's from, I have traveled the world, and every time that I have these moments of poignancy where the love is so palpable that you and I are feeling right now, to me, there's this opening that occurs, and each one of my paintings is a reflection of different aspects of meeting at this deep place where everything can be met and everything can be loved, even if it's ugly. I don't try to make pretty paintings. I'm not interested in that. Maybe there's a place for that, but my friends are the ones with the wild hearts, and they're willing to have those hearts broken open if that is going to give them more of themselves. And we need to have our hearts broken open in order to find the full depth of our soul.
Absolutely.
My version of truth, but
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, how about if I pull a few cards for you? Maybe that might
pull away.
All right. Let's see what the universe or the spirits or whoever, maybe your father, is chiming in here. Okay. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, and this is just such the theme of what we're talking about. So the first card is gratitude, which, and typically the first card is the blockage. But so what I'm getting about that is it's like showing gratitude for everything, because I think a lot of people they're able to give gratitude when things are going well, right? Oh yeah, I love my car and my this and my that, and but hey, when things get tough, that's when you need to really double down on the gratitude, and even for thanking for the, like I always say now, like my husband's dying was the best thing that ever happened to me. It woke me up to life. Like I had no idea what life was until my husband died. I mean, it was the hardest thing to have to go through, but and now I'm so grateful, because it just completely, it was like a nova superstar that exploded, and just opened up all these new areas in my life that I had no idea existed before.
I don't tell many people this, but I have an odd third or third eye, sixth sense ability. And I can see him behind you kind of going like, yes, she gets it. She gets it.
I love it. I love that you're sharing that you've got that. Well, so then your action card, which is just so fantastic, is playfulness. That's what this whole life is all about. At the end of the day, it's all just playfulness and fun. And my whole body is tingling right now. It's just lit up with, the spirit just like coming through me, because all of these, machinations of what we go through and all the upsets and all the, all the fun. It's like a roller coaster, right? You have the ups, you have the downs, and it's all about playfulness. And the more that you can view whatever situation, no matter how difficult it is, as playfulness, it can really change your perspective.
I agree. And I want to put a little asterisk or tiny star on that. There are times when there's a sweet line that life has, and sometimes playfulness is a avoidance of the intense intimacy with life that our soul in its wisdom is calling us to be with. And so my birthday was yesterday or Saturday, and
Happy birthday.
they put a big we have a chalkboard here, and it says happy birthday, or happy 12th birthday, Spar, because everybody sees me as like so childlike in my playfulness. But part of maturing is realizing that there is nothing richer and more fulfilling than playing with this sweet line. And the sweet line is intimacy with what is. And intimacy, in my definition, is it's closeness, it's openness, it's tenderness, it's vulnerability, it's trust. It's trust even in those places that don't trust or won't trust, right? Because all of those things create this intimacy with the intense existence of life as it is, right? The most delicious play and the most bravest play. And then, in the midst of that, sparks of life can, when that is met, sparks of life and playfulness become profoundly healing for everybody around us. But if we jump to that without touching the other thing, everybody feels or hears or smells the stench of the playfulness if it's premature.
Right. If it's not right. I love that. Thank you for adding that. And then the outcome card is beginnings.
Yay.
Which I think is that's the next step, right? I mean, the intimacy, like you said, that fine line of playfulness but being cognizant of not just playing and, tuning out and busyness, but being present to the life that's happening, and then the beginnings of what's next, of the unfolding of the next experience.
Beautiful.
So, wow, that is fantastic. I have loved this conversation, Spar. It's so intimate. My heart is just burst open. I mean, like you're painting behind you. I just feel this connection, this closeness, and for being so real. I just applaud you, because so many people in this world just can't be real, and there's something just so sweet and
it's soul
special
to not be real.
Right.
When we're talking about death here, I would encourage you and anybody else watching or listening, look around and look into the people look in their eyes and see how many people are living in caskets. That there's nobody home, and it's because it's because they've been hurt and they don't feel this world is safe enough for them to just be themselves.
Right.
So if we can be the kindness that can look and go, oh my God, there must be so much pain. Can I be at least the compassion, even if I don't say anything, that holds them with tenderness.
Beautiful, beautiful. How can people find you, Spar?
I live here. No.
You have a website.
SparStreet.com
Excellent.
is the best way. I am not great at social media, but Spar Street, I think it's studio, is the Facebook site.
Okay.
And I am in the process of starting a Patreon site. So if somebody likes what I have to say and wants to support me in living a life where I get to create instead of look for money for doing what I love to do, I would love to have your $1 a month or $3 a month or $100 a month or whatever you think would contribute to your feeling of awesomeness and supporting the different projects, public works, using art to change the world. And in my opinion, like there's massive amounts of scientific evidence, but my own personal experience is our environments affect us. For those who watch The Secret, they show that putting a sign in front of a bottle of water, if it says love, it affects the molecular structure. If you put hate, it affects the molecular structure. Your body is 80 to 90% water, and most people don't even look at all the evidence that if we're in environments that feed us, all of the chemistry changes, and if we have things that remind us, because it's so easy to forget, to come back to presence, come back to self-love, come back to loving kindness. It's the only thing that satisfies us, but it's the easiest thing to overlook. So create environments that constantly remind you of what matters most to you. And you know what matters most to you. You've got 2 minutes to live. What are you going to do? 2 minutes. Everybody knows, but they avoid it like the plague because it's intense to live with that level of self-awareness and self-care and care for others.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Spar, and I look forward to running into you on the island.
Beautiful. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.